Take a look and give some guidelines for checkpoint assignment number 2. It says follow the directions given for each specific problem. In problem number 1, you're going to be practicing some material out of chapter 3. You're going to be given a data set. Here you have 12 months of data for Marjorie. It says round all solutions to the nearest penny, that is 2 decimal places. So you need to follow these directions very precisely. You must show all of your work to receive credit for these problems. You may only use the graphing calculator to verify your solutions. This is the one and only time I will ask you to show me your work and how you find the mean, the median, the mode, the range, the variance, the standard deviation, and your quartiles. After this point and on any other assignments beyond this one that you may complete, you will be using your graphing calculator to find these values. So you need to show your work on how to do this. It is a small data set, so it's not that cumbersome to do the standard deviation. Please refer to Blackboard for examples on how to do these problems. Make sure that you write a sentence for the ones that are indicated that they need an interpretation. When it says interpret the mean in the context of the problem, in the context of the problem is very important. This is not the answer, but you'll say something similar to the average monthly expenditure for Marjorie was $1,200. For the median, an interpretation would be something like 50% of the time Marjorie's expenses were below blank dollars, or 50% of the time they were above blank dollars. When you interpret the mean, the median, and the mode in a problem, you never want to use the words mean, median, mode, middle, center. Okay? You want to interpret it in layman's terms so that everyone can understand. You're not going to say the average is 1,200. The average what? That's what it means by the context of the problem. You should be referring to Marjorie and her monthly living expenses every time you interpret these. Look at the examples on Blackboard for examples in the interpretation for these types of data values, the mean, the median, the mode, and so on. Notice that you do not have to give an interpretation for the range, the variance, or the standard deviation. All right, our next group of problems here, the next group of data rather, says that we have serving cost here of 20 cents. It's 20 different peanut butter brands. So they went through and they said, okay, the first peanut butter brand was 22 cents per serving, 9 cents per serving, 21 cents per serving, and so on. It says for each problem, round each solution 2 decimal places. You must show all of your work once again to receive credit for the problem. You may only use the graphing calculator to verify your solution. Again, this is the only time I will ask you to show me how you find your quartiles by hand. You can use the calculator to check your work. However, I want to see how you found these answers. So write out the data set in order from smallest to largest. Find the middle value for quartile 2. Find the middle of the upper half for quartile 1 and the middle of the lower half for quartile 3, and so on. Notice it says interpret your results in the context of the problem. So you will say something like 25% of the peanut butter brands cost blank cents per serving or less. 75% of the peanut butters cost blank cents per serving or less. You need to refer back to the context of the problem. You're talking about the serving cost of a brand of peanut butter. Here the interquartile range. The interquartile range is the value of quartile 3 minus quartile 1. And that's talking about 50% of the data values are within blank cents of each other. So you need to make sure you again interpret in the context of the problem. If you fail to write these sentences, you will not receive a good score on this assignment. When it comes to the final exam and the calculator will be calculating all the values for you, the sentences are going to be very crucial and counted more heavily than the actual value, since the calculator is going to be finding the value for you. It says to list the 5-number summary and construct a box and whisker plot. Make sure it has a title, as some of you learned the hard way from the first checkpoint assignment. Everything you construct needs a title, whether it's a table, a histogram, a stem and leaf plot, or a box and whisker plot. Everything you construct needs a title. All right, let's look at the third one here. It says for statistics test scores, the mean is 63, standard deviation is 7, and for biology test scores, the mean is 23, the standard deviation is 3.9. Again, you must show all of your work to receive full credit. You may only use your graphing calculator to verify your solutions. Here you're talking about finding the standard z-score for these, and then you're comparing. And you're using the formula to also go in reverse. So here you're given a value of x, and you're asked to find the value of z. In this problem, you're given the value of z, and you're asked to find the value of x. So you're going to be using the formula z equals x minus mu over sigma. Now you can use this same formula for both versions of this problem, but basically this is the formula for part A. For part B, if we were to take this formula and solve for x, which is going to be very beneficial to us in the long run, I would have z times sigma equals x minus mu, multiplying both sides by sigma to clear out the fraction. To solve for x, I would add mu to both sides. So I've got z times sigma plus mu equals x, or we can turn that around and say x equals z times sigma plus mu. That is the standard score times the standard deviation plus the mean. These are two very important formulas that we will use throughout the semester. Alright, all of this material in 1, 2, and 3 comes out of Chapter 3. As we move into questions 4, 5, and 6, you're looking more at Chapter 4. You're talking about correlation coefficients and response and predictor variables. Make sure that you use a calculator here. There will be a problem on the final exam exactly like number 6. It will deal with a different data set. However, it's going to ask you to do the exact same thing. You will do all of this on the calculator. Okay, you should use your graphing calculator to complete this problem. Do not do any of the calculations by hand. The same is true for any of the work you do in Chapter 4, whether it's MyMathLab or textbook problems for practice. Use the calculator. There are directions to use the calculator in Blackboard under the course content button. There are directions there about how to interpret. Again, as I mentioned earlier, when the calculator is doing all the work, the interpretation is very important. Notice here, you've got to interpret the value in the context of the problem. So you've got to write a sentence. Give a practical interpretation. Give a practical interpretation. Let's see where else you need to write a sentence. Here, interpret the value in the context of the problem. The sentences are very important part of this problem. Make sure you do not skip that. It's going to count several points. Notice the directions of how to round. 4 decimal places. Round your slope and y-intercept. 4 decimal places. Follow the directions exactly. You'll see from the directions that you can find on Blackboard, you want to list these in dual lists. So put the first values in list 1, the second values in list 2. Do not sort so that you have all of your values paired up. So on your calculator, when you have list 1 and list 2, you're going to have the 88, and it's still going to be paired up with the 81, so that we know the student who received the 88 in Calculus 1 is the same student who received the 81 in Calculus 2. You'll have 78 and 80 in the second spot, 62 and 55 in the second spot, and so on. Do not sort your values in either list when you're dealing with correlation coefficients. Alright, so make sure that you use the calculator. If you're having trouble with the calculator, contact me. Don't wait till the last minute to work on this. As I said, there is a problem identical to this on your final exam, and it has several parts, therefore it's going to be worth a lot of points. When you move into 7 through 10, you are going to be moving into Chapter 5, Probability. Notice for problems 7 through 10, it says express each solution both as a fraction and a decimal. All decimals should be rounded 3 significant digits. When you're talking about a standard deck of 52 cards, what is a standard deck? There's a good description, a picture of a standard deck in your textbook. A standard deck consists of 4 suits: the diamonds, the hearts, which are red, the spades, and the clubs, which are black. There are 4 suits, therefore each suit contains 13 cards. When you're talking about those 13 cards, the ace is either worth 1 point or 11 points. If it comes down to being important to know that, I will give you the point value for the ace. Either way, it is an odd point value. The cards with a number on them, that is their point value. The 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, all the way up to the 10. So that is the point value. There are face cards in each suit. The face cards are the jack, the queen, the king. The ace does not have a face. Okay, the only face cards are the jack, the queen, the king, and they are worth 10 points each. Be careful when you're working these problems. Remember from the textbook problems and the examples that an or indicates addition. Okay, when you're dealing with an and indicates multiplication of the 2 individual probabilities. Be careful when you're dealing with a problem that you have dependent and independent situations going on. Notice in number 9, when you take a piece of candy out, what's the probability it's brown? You took 1 piece out. Notice how many pieces there are total in there. What's the probability it's blue or red? Well, that's implying addition because it's an or. You select 2 pieces of candy, you eat the first one. Okay, that's changing the sample space. Be careful. What is the probability both pieces are yellow? That's the same as saying, what's the probability that the first one is yellow and the second one is yellow? So this is an and problem. That's going to imply that you're going to multiply. Same thing is going on with D and with E. Okay, these are going to be multiplication here. The probability that neither piece is brown, so the probability the first one is not brown and the second one is not brown. You will definitely have problems like these coming up on your final exam, especially these probabilities and problem like number 10 where you're dealing with a data set that's given to you in a table. Here, what's the probability the student is a woman? A student is a regular smoking given. Anytime you're given a condition, you need to restrict your sample space. For example, if it says the student is a regular smoker given that the student is a man, that means I'm only dealing with the men in this study. I ignore everyone else. So out of this new total, this given, how many are regular smokers? Every time you have a given situation, you have to restrict the sample space. There are examples on Blackboard, and of course you can always contact me. Don't make guesses. You've got several weeks to work on this, a couple weeks anyway. So get busy on this. Don't wait till the last minute. Work on it as you go. You should already be able to work on all the Chapter 3 problems because we've finished Chapter 3 at this point. Please contact me if you have any questions.